Hi everybody, and a big thank you out to McCarthy Insurance Group based here in Cork City. We're very grateful to have them on board as one of our sponsors for the Long Way Back podcast. A big thank you from all the team here at the Long Way Back. Now on to the show. Hi everyone, and welcome to the first episode of the Long Way Back podcast. I'm Timmy Long. We have Donald Clifford, Georgie Cooney and Tommy Long. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of an introduction to myself. Right, I was a co-host of the Two Nollies podcast for the last 3.5 years with James, my co-host, and I've just recently decided to start my own podcast. The Long Way Back just represents my own maybe journey in recovery and the different stuff that went on for me with ADHD, dyslexia, psychotherapy, and other stuff. So we're going to try to get into everything. So if anybody doesn't know me, I spent years in addiction, and I spent the last 12 years trying to heal from trauma and a lot of shame and fear and guilt from a lot of different things in my life. And it's been a real journey. Meditation has been a massive part of my journey. It has helped me probably more than anything else outside of this man here next to me through the psychotherapy side of things, and my life really today, because of putting in the work, is absolutely amazing. I still have fear like everybody else. I still feel like shit some days when I wake up like everybody else. I still can suffer like everybody. So what we're going to try to do in this podcast is give people ways to be able to get well, healing through mental health. If they're struggling with addiction, or family members who have sons or daughters or mothers and fathers, that are struggling with addiction, we're going to try our best to help them in any way we can by just giving them other people's experiences and a bit of hope, which means hearing other people's experiences, and that's what we're here for. So I'm just going to pass you over to the next person, Donald Clifford.
Thanks, Timmy.
Donnie.
Thanks for the introduction. I'm Donald Clifford. I'm a psychotherapist. I have a special interest in addiction, more so around recovery, around sexual health, problematic sexual behaviours, all that kind of stuff. I think recovery for me is broad. It's much broader than a substance or a behaviour. And I suppose in my own practice, I lean more towards healing from problems and from behaviours, as opposed to kind of getting stuck in the problem of what's going on in the moment. I suppose I've experienced, I worked in where I met you, in a treatment centre.
Yeah, many moons ago,
thankfully. I always remember that first day. Yeah. It's mad, isn't there? Some people stick on your head.
I'd say for about 2.5, nearly 3 years, like we were inside in that room every morning at 7:30 before I went off to college. And I learned so much. Yeah. I think it was probably one of the real moments in my life where I started to find myself. And when I say find myself, I started to connect emotionally, and start losing the baggage that I'd carried around with me since I was a child.
Yeah. It's good stuff, isn't it? It is.
It's good stuff. But I also learned through the years that stuff, it wasn't baggage. Yeah. It gave me real sense of resilience. Yeah. And today, I believe all that stuff that did happen to me in my life has made me very strong. Yeah. To be able to cope with a lot of the shit in my life today. Yeah. And like I'm just one of the few people that you're after helping. Yeah. Like I know a massive amount of people that you're after helping with your work. And I know they're very grateful. But you do a lot of work as well with the Sexual Health Centre.
I do.
Want to explain a little bit about that?
So that was kind of my passion for the last. It's 10 years old. I myself and 2 colleagues started SALT in 2014. So in March this year, which is in next week, SALT will be 10 years old. So it's the first kind of program in Ireland where it was specifically around problematic sexual behaviours.
What does it mean? SALT?
Sex and love therapy.
Sex and love therapy.
Yeah. I suppose initially it formed out of the idea of sex addiction, and that's because there was no treatment around for people struggling with sexual behaviours, problematic sexual behaviours. Now there's huge controversy around, is it sexual addiction or is it compulsive sexual behaviour? To be honest about it, that's irrelevant to me.
Yeah.
I want to work with people, not with kind of titles or whatever it is. And look, that's my own stance in it, and I don't get involved in all that. But SALT is 10 years old. I'm handing over the reins now completely to the Sexual Health Centre soon, and they're in a very good place to take it over. Like we have a place in Kerry, started this year. So we've SALT in Kerry and we'll have SALT in Limerick. And I think kind of the plan down the line is like the SALT would become a national I suppose, resource for the country, for people to explore their own sexuality, their own, like to heal from their own problems around sex, whatever issues they've had around sex. So yeah, we're absolutely swamped with that.
And that is one touchy subject, the sex addiction and stuff like that. It's not something that a lot of people have a lot of shame around it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they don't really talk to it. It's not something you go into a room and you have a chat with the boys. This is happening to me at the moment. You know, I'm fucking watching about 4 or 5 porn movies a day there. And you know, it's not something they talk about.
No,
you know,
and that's it. Until they're in a room and it's facilitated.
Yeah.
And then people really do kind of go to, I suppose, this very kind of shameful place, and they kind of identify with each other, and like the work that goes on and the courage that it takes. It's going in now talking about alcohol and drugs, and there's even a kind of a bit of a bravado around it. But talking about sexual issues, it's really kind of, there's a depth to it. There's a real depth to it. It's raw. It's exhausting work, I'll be honest about it. That's why I'm taking a step back, because it is exhausting. But like, that's not my only passion. Like I recently finished kind of doing a bit of study with Cabby Laffey and Polly McAfee in the UK again, and they had a fantastic training around psychosexual psychotherapy, a part that we don't cover here in any of our trainings. So I'm hoping that maybe we can do something with them in the future. There's people in the States I'm in contact with. So I'm really passionate about kind of, I suppose, different views and different ways of, like here, I suppose in Ireland, we're kind of limited to some degree because we don't have the population. But I'm hoping that kind of connecting with people around the world now, and maybe some of them will come on the podcast and talk about what they do in different areas.
What's it called? Social what is it? Sexual behaviours. No, I'm very bad at pronunciation. There's my dyslexia there, George.
Psychosexual psychotherapy.
We might have a bigger chat about that at a different time. So we'll just
maybe bring on some professionals and
definitely, because it's like I had a brief conversation about that stuff before with you, and it's very, very interesting. Yeah. You know, it kind of explains a lot around why we think the way we think as well. And
I suppose just on that, it isn't just about that. I suppose I have a couple of people in my head that would contribute to, like, sports people and sports psychology and kind of the recovery and the healing and like all different aspects, not just kind of the therapy.
It's all about healing.
It's all about healing. And there's different ways to heal. Yeah. It's not just therapy, and it's not just mindfulness, and it's not just any one thing.
There's
and you can even prevent it. You know, and some of the people I'm hoping that we'll be talking to might even just say ways of preventing. You know, I think prevention is better than any cure. So that's my own agenda.
I'm really looking forward to these conversations, Tony, because, and so is probably a lot of our listeners, because it's just one of those subjects that we don't talk enough about, and because people are actually scared to go there, because it was just something that was hidden in this country for a long, long time, down to the church and religion and all these different things. So hopefully them conversations will help a lot of people just move on from what's going on for them. So we'll move on to Georgie.
Timmy, so we met through neurodiversity, which is a whole nother thing altogether. So you were hoping to get a sort of a whole big campaign going to raise awareness, just like you've just said, for helping to educate teachers, parents, anyone who's asking questions. You're hoping to get them all to be awakened. Yeah. So we met because of that, because I'm a dyslexia specialist, but I've also because of the work I do, I've ended up working at all the spectrum of neurodiversity, autism, speech and language difficulties, gross motor difficulties, fine motor dyspraxia. There's lots and lots of different ones.
You know, when I was doing the Tunaris with James, there were so many messages coming in from people around that.
Yeah.
Like there was parents out there struggling to understand what was going on for their child. They were being diagnosed with all these different things: ADHD, dyslexia, dyspraxia, dyscalculia, and they hadn't a clue what it even meant. So what's our hope here? What is our hope here?
Well, you know, I'm asked questions every day.
Yeah.
Every day. So the hope is that we can reach as many people as possible and we can help educate them, but not just you and me. We're going to be interviewing really important, special people who know their field very well: speech and language therapists, psychologists, occupational therapists, people who've gathered together as groups who are doing so much in Ireland, you know. Yeah. I think giving, a lot of it is about hope, because so many times I'm approached by parents who are feeling hopeless. And, you know, where do I go? What do I do? How do I help my child? And, you know, it isn't actually hopeless. There is a lot out there. So I want to talk about that. But we need to look at what can we do to make things better? Who can we reach out to? So there's just so much to cover and so much to discuss. And we've already found some really interesting guests who are Irish. They live here and they're experienced and knowledgeable, and we're all in it for the same reasons. You know?
Yeah, because there is a massive lack of education in the country. And we often spoke about, not just with parents, but teachers. There's a lot of teachers around as well, and they're inside in classrooms and they can obviously see some of these children that are really struggling.
Absolutely. It's not because they don't want to, it's because they don't know how to.
Yeah.
You know, we've got a big discussion is around teacher training. We've got actually someone coming in to talk about that. Is the teacher training doesn't cover all the things that we need to help kids with neurodiversity. I mean, there are so many different types of learning differences in one classroom. And if you are a newly qualified teacher who's going into this classroom and you don't feel you've got the tools to do the right thing. I mean, I didn't. I graduated as a teacher. I was completely in disbelief I was even a teacher because I struggled in school.
Yeah.
I then became a teacher. And of course, the ones I was interested in were the ones who were really struggling. And I wanted to know why and how do I help them? And ended up doing a bit of psychology as well, and then went on to do a diploma and became a diagnostic assessor, which is something that doesn't really exist here. But again, that's another thing to look at, because we rely very much on education psychology assessments.
What you were saying, the diagnostic assessor over in England can actually assess people, and they can get a report on that. But back here, we have nobody like that. It has to be an educational psychologist to do the assessment.
It traditionally, yes. Yeah. And we're seeing a few people who are starting to graduate in this master's who are able to go into schools. They can be situated in a school, but you're still very dependent on an education psychologist when it comes to having access, additional assistive technology, access arrangements for exams. There's so much around the exam pressure, extra time, processing, all these sorts of things that we need to look at as well. But I mean, there's a massive dependence on education psychology assessments, simply not enough education psychologists. And the areas of need, it's sort of geographical areas where they're really, really need of a lot of education psychologists, they don't have access to it. They have a couple of visits from NEPS once or twice a year, as we discovered when we did the Walk This Way to a Wider Education.
And that's how we actually met first.
That is,
Yeah, what happened was, I'll give you a little breakdown of what happened and how I met Georgie. I wanted to maybe give something back to my own community, and I started looking at my own life and the struggles that I had in school and how those struggles in school started to to make these core beliefs within me as a young child, that I was stupid, I was thick, that there was something wrong with my brain. And at this stage, when we did start the charity, I'd been assessed already and I'd been told I was dyslexic. And after hearing those words and dyslexia being explained to me, that I actually was quite intelligent, and it was just that I worked differently to other people's brains, you know. It actually stopped. Those thoughts stopped, and I started to have more belief in myself, and I started to look then at maybe something like that as how I could give back, and I just went to a few of the schools in Knocknaheeny, where I'm from, and Churchfield, and I asked the principals, like, how do you get children assessments in the school? Who pays for them? You know, and they said no one. Like St. Vincent de Paul might pay for a few. We might get one off maybe the education board, and that's it. And some parents might be fortunate that they can pay for a private assessment, but there are other children then that haven't, and they slip completely through the cracks.
And too many of them.
And that's their route. And that's when I said, listen, this is what we're going to do. We're going to raise funds. We're going to get these assessments for children that really, really need them. And we weren't expecting the amount of children that were on these lists. Every school got over 10 assessments.
They did.
Each. Yeah. And it just kind of went from there. And what do we do now?
Yeah, I mean, so I think we ended up, we paid for about over 40 assessments.
Over 40 assessments, yeah.
Now, not everyone came out with a diagnosis of a specific learning difference. There were lots of things that came out of this, you know, that some of it was what was going on at home. Some of it was, you know, much more to your area as well, you know, regulation and mental health and this kind of thing. But boy, did they need those assessments to go forward. And again, is that changing that negative thought process? How do we change the mindset? And so now we're trying to create Educating All Minds, this charity to make it even bigger and more impactful as well. So this sort of podcast is coming in hand in hand in that, which is great.
And hopefully we can make enough noise that people don't have to pay for these assessments anymore. You know, and the schools are supplied with educational psychologists to be able to do them, because it's every child's right to get an education.
Absolutely.
And what if this child is like, he doesn't fit the education route that we already have? What happens?
We all know there's no one size that fits all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, so that's what we're at this year. We're in the middle of getting registered for the charity, and hopefully that'll work out.
Yeah.
So next we have, who's this fella across from me? Hi, Tommy.
Yeah, I'm Tommy. For the people that don't know, I'm Timmy's brother, and I'm here for the addiction side of it. You know, for years I used heroin and other substance, and jails and jails and all the other stuff. And a bit nervous, but
that's fine.
That's
Tommy.
all right too.
But do you know what my reasons for having you on? It's not that me or you are academic people. We're not. You know, we have our own lived experience, and we'll stick to what we know.
Yeah.
You know, and like, people need to know that anybody can get recovery into their lives as well. Because for long enough, Tommy, I remember you being at home and being around the place in the area, and like just being classified as a hopeless case, Tommy.
Yeah, and I thought I was a hopeless case myself. Everyone was getting clean around me, and I was looking at it and I was saying, I can't do it. I'm different. I'm dyslexia. I'm all that. I thought there was something wrong with me. But there wasn't in the end. I just didn't go through enough. I took a lot more punishment than others, and in the end of it all, they just destroyed me. It was my life. I tried to end my life a few times at the end of my addiction. So the only thing was left was get help, and that's what I went with. And And I'm here for that side of it, to relate to people that struggle with drugs and went to prison and recovery. My recovery, I'm nearly 6 years clean now.
Well done, Tommy.
I'm coming up on 6 years clean, and
Do you want to just tell people briefly, like, where you ended up at the end, and how and what you're after working to achieve in the last 6 years? Just to leave people know that anything can be done.
Like, at the end of my addiction, I was living in a squat. I was homeless. I've pushed everyone that loved me away. Everyone close to me, I pushed them away. And in the 6 years that I'm clean, I help a lot of people in recovery. A lot of my friends, there's a saying, monkey see, monkey do. And I'm a big believer of that, because a lot of my friends are in recovery today. And I'd be the same by seeing my brother in recovery. So, monkey see, monkey do. When I see him doing it, I wanted it. And when I do it, and I was a hopeless case, and other people saw me doing it, they came into recovery behind me, and good friends of mine as well, and
that ripple effect, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Yeah,
into recovery and ripple effect into addiction.
Like, that's why I'm here. I'm here to pass a message of recovery, of the hopeless case. There's hope for everyone.
Yeah.
There's hope for everyone, and I share my experience, you know what I mean?
So what's happening in your life today, Tom?
What's happening? Things are
Where were you
great.
last week?
What?
Where were you last
I'm
week?
only back there from getting my teeth done. I was over in Croatia. I'll tell you.
Everybody was expecting turkey there.
No, not Turkey, thank God. But I have a little story there about that today. I'm craving. I love Chinese. Everyone that knows me, I love Chinese's, and so I went for a Chinese today on my own. I like going for food on my own too. That's a big thing for me. I can go in and sit down and have a meal on my own without getting fucked up, really.
Yeah.
And I couldn't queue up in the shop to get a packet of fags, because I felt like I'd done something wrong and I shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
And today I can go and have a meal on my own and pay for it, and that's what it's about. That's priceless. And people I put up a snap and they see me eating on my own. I get messages, you weirdo. I'm not weird, it's just I'm able to do it. I have the confidence to do it.
You're owning it. You're owning it.
Yeah, I have the confidence to do it, so why not?
Yeah.
And so I was there today anyway, and got the Chinese, mangled it now, because I was over in Croatia for 10 days and I had no Chinese.
What'd you get in the Chinese?
Chicken curry. So I got a chicken curry anyway. Ate it. Good luck to the people, and they know. I don't even have to order. They know what I'm getting. So away with me anyway. I met one of my friends, and he was, "You're back from Croatia. Give me a look at the teeth." And he goes, "Tommy, your teeth are green." I was like, what? I took off up into Deals, right? I bought the mouthwash and the toothbrush, up to the counter, paid from. I'm out in the middle of Hertford Street with mouthwash and the toothbrush. I had to take off home and scrub them. I thought my teeth were staying there up in the head. That's how crazy my life is. You know what I mean? But yeah, thank God they came out. I was blessed. But I'm really looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to helping people, because it's something I love.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's something I heard when I came into recovery. The only way you can keep it is by giving it away. And I didn't understand that, but I do today. Yeah.
Fair play, Tommy. Thanks very much.
No problem.
Thanks. So, listen, this is the theme that we have going forward. We'll bring other speakers on as well. What?
George wants to.
Oh God, sorry. No, I was only going to say it was. It's probably too late now, but I was just going to say.
No, we're not finished now. You're not going to make that easy at all, Georgie.
But it was just. It's all too often that we hear people saying that. That I thought there was something wrong with me, and I had Tommy say it and I had Timmy say it, and it's just, and that you're still getting all these so many kids who think there's something wrong with them. They feel different to everyone else, and that's one of the key things we really want to do here is, so first of all, it's okay to feel a bit different.
Yeah.
And second of all, you're not on your own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Like,
But you know what you
You're so
said?
different.
Do you know what you said there, Georgie? I have a question for you, Donnie. Do you know if somebody actually feels that they're actually different from everybody else? Do you think that's somebody who's actually after becoming detached emotionally and they're living in their head consistently? Would it be something to do with that?
It could be. I wouldn't ever say it to be that simple.
Yeah.
Like, I suppose beliefs like that will usually go back, like, if you ask me, they'll go back to very, very early stages in life. And it could be something as, like, it could be in the first year or 2 years of life where they kind of felt like maybe I wasn't wanted, and like they could have been absolutely wanted. But it generally, those kind of beliefs are formed when people are quite young.
Yeah.
And it could be that mum was under pressure, or dad, or there was tension in the house, or there was poverty, or there was addiction, or there was something, and they can't give the child the kind of the need and the reassurance that's needed. But that's usually where those beliefs are formed.
Yeah.
And like I generally think the majority of people have those beliefs to some degree. Like, to some degree, and like, obviously some of us have those beliefs, and they're much, much stronger, and they kind of control our lives. But I think the majority of people have those beliefs to some degree, like in some shape or form.
I can relate with myself, even growing up. Even growing up, I just felt like I never really fit in. Yeah. I actually thought I was adopted, Tommy, growing up.
Yep.
I actually did, because I didn't feel like I actually genuinely didn't feel like I fit in anywhere. I feel like I didn't fit in on the street with the other kids. I felt like I didn't fit in at home. Like, my relationship, my mother would have been completely different. Your relationship with her and John Paul's relationship with her. And I kind of internalized that then, like, is
something wrong with me.
Well, you would, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you would. Yeah.
What did I do wrong?
But you see, I suppose for children have to believe that the parents are right. And if the parents are right and something doesn't feel right, it has to be me that's wrong. You're not going to blame. You're not going to blame the parent, because the parents are the people that you look up to. They're what's going to keep you alive. So then there has to be something wrong with me. So then you adjust. You'll make all these little adjustments. How am I going to fit in here? That's generally what happens.
Yeah, but saying, going back to that now, when I said I thought there was something wrong with me, but that went back for me in school, because I could never keep up with the class, and I was never told that I was dyslexia or anything like that. I always was copying the person next to me, and that horrible feeling when there's a test coming up, and you're like, who can I sit next to? Who's the brainy one? And and there was someone in my class, and she knew what way I was. Thank God. She'd always pass back her notebook, or the fear that I had in school of that.
I was the exact same.
I was too.
It was exact same.
Spelling test. I'd be thinking of the spelling test Monday when I went to school, and it's Friday.
Or maths for me.
Isn't that amazing?
I was like that last week doing the safe pass. I was doing the safe pass last week, and because just sitting in a classroom all day trying to take in information, I was trying to find things to just to do.
Yourself,
And then he says, we have a test. It was like, I started to freeze up. And I kept moving my table closer to the man next to me.
That's me. I'd be nearly opening his back. Push over there.
Yeah. Oh, it's just, I think most people really struggle with it, don't they?
With tests, anyway.
Oh, tests are a disaster.
Yeah. Like, I loved college because it was a continuous assessment. And you had to write, like, you had to do essays, and you had to do things at home and put in the work. Yeah. Not just learn stuff off, because the type of learning stuff.
Tests are
scary situation.
I failed as soon as I hear a test. I'm gone. Like.
But they're only testing you on what you can achieve within that test.
Yeah.
It's not, they don't actually get a true picture, particularly if you're someone who has a processing, challenge of any kind. You're expected to show everything you know in a certain amount of time, which is totally absurd.
Yeah.
Like, I have a big problem.
It's another challenging thing for me. My theory test.
Oh, God, driving theory.
Yeah. Like, seeing people that I knew were
Driving.
No, that were good in school and that failing and the pressure that I had of someone else failing was like, he's brainy.
Yeah.
He failed.
Yeah.
I'm fucked.
Yeah.
Do you know?
I do.
And that's the way it was for me. Sorry, for the language, but
But you should be sorry, Tommy. Don't be using that language.
but do you know what I mean?
I do.
And then, like, the way I learned how to do the theory test, like, I couldn't read some of the words, but whatever, I just, when I get them wrong, I go back over them and I look for a word in it that like, you could have two questions that be the same. Do you get me?
Yeah, yeah.
And I'd figure a word in it, and when I get it wrong, I'd look for that word. When that question come back up for me, I'd copy it by the word and say, have you know? Boom.
See, that's clever in itself.
Exactly. That's what I
because
was
you're
gonna
finding
say.
strategies that work for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you figure out to be cute in ways.
And even when I went in to do the test, I got a letter off my doctor because I can't read or write. And he gave me the letter. So we were in the COVID and I went in with my letter. She goes, that letter is no good to you today. She goes, I can't leave no one image, but I will put you in a room on your own. So I went in anyway, done it. But I done the 40 questions and I never done it before. I went over them and changed this one and changed that one. And I got caught in the word on the third one.
So you had time to do that. That's the key. Yeah.
And I called the woman and I says, sorry, could you tell me that word? And she goes, I can't help you. I just goes, here, take it. I'm finished.
Yeah.
And I went out to the counter and I'm like, well, she's like, here. I'm like, well, she goes, here. I go, did I pass? She goes, it's up there. I didn't even take the door. I wanted to go out the window. I was buzzing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the way I done it. Like, I had to look at words and because I forget. I have a head like a sieve when it comes to...
But this is exactly what one of our messages is that, what you did there was you found an alternative strategy to basically try and get through this test. You think about the amount of kids who have neurodiversity who have to find alternative strategies to get through tests. And that takes time, which is why they need additional time. Not everyone does, but, there are so many who get so stressed out by the fact that they're sitting a timed test. And they could do so much better if it wasn't timed. Like, give them a chance to prove what they are capable of doing.
Yeah.
It's something that I
think with exams anyway, I think there's an awful lot of pressure and stress on them. Even when I was doing the exams in MTU in the hall was filled with about 500 or 600 people. And every time the door opened or closed, there was a noise off it. I'd still be trying to read the same question and I'd have to read it 10, 15 times. Then the door would open, then my attention's gone. Then I'm beating myself up over it because I'm looking at everybody else packing their pencil cases, leaving, and I have nothing on the paper yet. Can you imagine a child, right, that's gone through the education system undiagnosed and they're having to deal with this stuff? That's why this charity is so important, Georgie.
And maybe some of those children also have those beliefs that you were talking about that we all know, and then that's compounding that even more. And you wonder why people end up where they end up. So if you have a belief, I don't belong here, I'm worthless, and here's the proof, I can't even read, I can't do maths, I struggle with this, struggle with that. Like for me, obviously, you're going to do something to escape that or to relieve it or something. And that's kind of what we're all hoping to achieve with this, I presume, is that we give people this.
My junior cert, I went on the hop for my junior cert. I never went in. The fear of it.
Isn't that crazy?
My mother got over at the time, wasn't well. She was suffering with mental health. And I was on the hop. And the only reason I got caught was a report came in the post saying, Thomas, very good student, but it's pity he didn't sit his junior cert. Caught. So, and that was all fair. Because I can't do it, I can't do it. I know good at that, I can't do that.
Do you know, we on Tuesdays, the Dyslexia Association of Ireland in Cork, they have these workshops, and the workshops are designed for basically kids with dyslexia to meet other kids with dyslexia. And it is absolutely unbelievable the change that you see in a child who's always felt completely different in the classroom. Everyone else seems to be able to kind of zoom on ahead.
Yeah.
Usually, more times than not, they are more than the average intelligence, but they are so frustrated
Spot on. Yeah.
because they can't get it down in time, or they're not copying off the board in time.
Spot on, yeah.
They go into these workshops and suddenly they're surrounded by a whole group, like 8, there's usually 8 in the group. 8 of them who all have dyslexia, who are all feeling the same way. Yeah, that's how I feel. But you also have dyslexia. You also feel that. And it is incredible. And they come back every week.
Yeah.
Every week. They feel so comfortable with their tribe, basically, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and listen, God knows that there's a massive shortage as well for people that can actually
Absolutely.
educate.
Yeah.
Teachers. There's a massive shortage of educational psychologists.
Yeah.
There's like, and no, today I know there's a huge number of adults going back being assessed for ADHD, and it seems to be the next thing.
Yeah.
It's absolutely mental. And even my own journey, I was assessed 3 times by 3 separate psychiatrists. And it wasn't until the 3rd one that we actually finally got it right, because I got a report.
Oh, that was for the ADHD diagnosis, yeah.
Like, that
And you got
was
the diagnosis.
horrific.
Yeah. That was
Horrific. And can you imagine a child going through something like that? And, so like, we've a lot of adults going through this now, and for the first time in their life, they feel like that they're being heard and they're being noticed and they're starting to understand themselves. But we also need the right people in the right places to be able to do this job. And my fear is that probably we don't, in some areas, through my own experience, we don't have the right people. And this isn't going out to any of the good people out there. This is going out to the ones that are just there for the wrong reasons, and they're not doing their job properly. Helping people in a way that they should be helped. So they're not having another traumatic experience by going through a really, really bad experience with
a service.
Do you know what I mean, Ronnie?
Yeah.
So it's important as well that we can direct people in the right way as well here.
Well, I mean, the correlation between sort of reoffending and the high level of language and literacy needs. That these guys, as you guys know, have ended up in a system that didn't work for them, and with poor literacy coming into prison, and then having this issue as well of, where do I go next? What do I do? Why haven't I been helped? I need to get help. You obviously got some help, didn't you? You reached out and got some help in prison.
Yeah, I asked for help, but there's a lot of guys that are shy in asking for help.
Yeah.
Prison is absolutely overrun.
Yeah.
It is, I'm telling you now, it's overrun with people who haven't been diagnosed with something.
That's exactly the point.
And it's just, like we all know prison well at this stage, and you see people inside in prison, you're thinking, if something else, some other service had been there, there's a high possibility they wouldn't have arrived in prison.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And it's from a very young age that these services need to be kind of introduced to people, saying, give him this, a bit of this, and it's going to save, if it's about money, it's going to save you in the long run.
Exactly.
And
that's something I always say, Donnie, as well. Like if we're thinking now and trying to resolve problems now, we have the wrong way about it.
Yeah.
We need to think now and have a look at the youth in the country and what they need to be able to help themselves, the process, to be in a place that they can actually understand how they feel, how they
feel ready.
And even education. Even the education side of it, Georgie.
Yeah.
Like, we have an education that system that is fit for one person.
One style of person.
And that's a person that can sit in a classroom and learn and go home and do homework and be a good student. And it's not fit for the guys at all who are disruptive in the classroom. The Tommies, the Donies, the people who are disruptive because they know no other way to be able to cope in the classroom because they haven't a clue what's going on the board.
Yeah.
And
disruptive and distracted. This is the other thing, and feeling that they're just not understood. It's a real problem. But again, we've got to look at the teacher training, but it's also leadership. I've really, really noticed since working here, the parents who come to me saying, "Thank God, the head teacher in the schools, she's brilliant. She's really helping finding resource for my child. The teachers have been really supportive." And then the head teachers where they are just not seeing it as a priority in any way. They're not, you can see that they're not encouraging staff training. They're not encouraging conversations between parents, which actually is really important. Like the conversation between
Joining
the parents
the
and the
dots,
school.
like,
it's like
connecting
a team
people.
around the child. basically.
Yeah. I have a
Massive
question, if you don't mind, and it's not usually appropriate tonight, but it's always rattling around inside my head. Is there any correlation, do you think, between adverse childhood experiences early on and people who are presenting with ADHD, ADD, anything like that? Is there any kind of evidence out there, any research being done about? Is there a correlation between that?
Well, we know that it's neurological. We know that having a diagnosis of ADHD or ADD is neurological. Well, most neurological, most neurodiversity obviously is diagnosed. There's a neurological imbalance, a chemical imbalance. Did it appear much earlier because of their family situation, because of the food they were eating, the lack of sleep they had, the anger in the environment, so much with all of these things is about regulation. And what we see in the kids who are disruptive or having behavioral problems, who are, there's so much sensory seeking, a lot of them are dysregulated. And I think really that's what we're talking about, is what is causing dysregulation. Is it the shouting and screaming at home? Is there drug abuse? Is there alcohol abuse? Is there neglect? Is there overindulgence? Are they eating breakfast before they get to school? Are they being bullied? I mean, all of these things.
Is there structure? Is there routine?
Is there structure? Is there routine?
Like these things.
All of these things,
well.
absolutely. There could also be.
I actually asked the psychologist that done an assessment recently for a family member that question, and I said, like, "What is the answer to this? Like, what's the answer to somebody having ADHD? Is it the nurture thing, or is it the nature?
Yeah.
And she said, "You know what? To me, it's actually both."
Well, I would agree with that.
She said it's both. Yeah. She said the two of them. It could be. It's just one of these things that they don't know. It's actually both, and they've worked off. Like, they've had families where a child has grown up inside in a situation where there was loads of love and care, and the child got whatever it needed. There was no poverty, and the child came out with ADHD. Or had other learning differences. And they've had. So it's a bit of everything. So it's not just the one. It's both nurture and nature.
But the thing that's really apparent is dysregulation. In all of these things, whatever background you came from, and so much of the work that everyone does is around regulation.
When you say dysregulation, Georgie, what does that mean for a person?
So if you can imagine, like, humans have a personal thermometer. And if you are pretty calm and you handle things well and everything, the thermometer's kind of, averaging. You're okay. When you're dysregulated, your thermometer's like this. Up, down. So you can be way down and hard to move. You want to sleep the whole time. You're sluggish. You're not up for anything. You can be way up where you're totally hyper. You could be really angry. You could be really happy. You could be ecstatic. You could be, suicidal, all of these things. So it's about trying to get whatever it is that makes you
regulate.
Exactly.
So what you're talking about is kind of what we would call the polyvagal theory.
Okay.
It's polyvagal theory, hypo.
Yes.
Your nervous system.
Yes.
All that. Okay,
yeah, absolutely. And you hear about it a lot with autism as well. Yeah, absolutely. And you've just reminded me of another thing, the interoception.
Yes.
Interoception in autism causes massive dysregulation as well, because it's a lack of understanding actually what's going on inside. So if you're hungry, even you're not aware of it, or if you're too hot or too cold you can imagine you're up, down, here, there, everywhere. Confused.
You're confused.
You're absolutely confused. And how does someone with dysregulation sit in a classroom of 30 kids with a teacher at the front? How do you learn? How do you access the curriculum when you are so dysregulated?
Or just express yourself?
Express yourself.
Yeah.
with confidence and feel calm that you're saying the right thing. You know, a lot of the kids won't speak out because they're so scared of, I'm going to say something that's going to embarrass me, judging.
Yeah.
I think we're after giving people a real taste of what's to come with this podcast going forward. You know, with this just being the first podcast, we were just giving people a brief introduction of the panel of people that are going to be here sharing their expertise and their experience. You know, and so I'm very happy to be here. I'm very happy to have each of you here with me to join me having these conversations with people, because I know it's going to be amazing. And so many people are going to learn so much from what we have to say and from the other people that are going to come on and share their expertise in the different areas. So I just want to thank every one of you for being here tonight and going forward. So, Tony, we'll probably wrap it up. So the Long Way Back podcast is going to become to all platforms very, very soon. If you want to follow us on YouTube, Tony, if you want to help us out with the rent, the studio, our production, or editing, you can follow us on our Patreon, Tony. And it's on all social media platforms as well. So if you want to follow us or share our content with somebody that you know will benefit from the content, please do it.
Or can I say maybe that can contribute? That maybe they can contribute something.
That's very important as well. We are looking for people that have expertise and lived experience in different areas that can come on here and share it and just talk about what's going on for them, because you actually don't know how beneficial that your experience will be. And that was probably why I started the podcast at the start, was because of my own experience, because I always wanted to know what I could offer life, because I wasn't really a genius in any way, but I had a lived experience that a lot of people were struggling in their own lives, and I could share my experience, my route to recovery, and I felt like that was something that really gave me fulfillment. And that's why I'm here today, and that's why we're here today, because we know what we're going to do here is going to be super beneficial for people going forward. So if we wrap it up with that, Tony, I just wanted to say thank you to everybody listening, and thank you for everybody that's supporting us and following us on all the different platforms. It actually means a lot, and it just shows us as well that what we're doing here is definitely the right thing to do. And I want to thank everybody very, very much. So thank you, and God bless.